Now, it's not to say that there aren't apps out there that aren't providing excellent supplemental material for you as you're trying to learn a language. One of the ones that I love is Pimsleur. I'm not being paid to say that. It simply is just good. All right. I used this before anybody knew about it. And let's be honest about this. It's not an app. All right. I had a tape and then it moved to CDs. It's just available as an app now on your phone because that's the easiest way for them to reach you. Although I did like the CDs. CDs were cool, man. Some of you guys just don't get it. Tapes and CDs were records. I'm not old enough for records, but we got them in our house. Like, just saying. Now, the next question you should be asking yourself is, how would I structure out my language learning if I was not going to use an app at all? What would that look like, and why, and what are the benefits to doing it like that? Well, I can tell you the very first one. The first one is that your concentration, period, is going to be higher. Your retention is going to be higher. We know this through all of the tests and all of the science behind screens. We know now that you assimilate and retain more information through books because of the tactile nature, because it's in this world. Let's say that's part of the reason why. My other assumption is going to be the fact that the phone also contains the entire knowledge of the human race, along with things flashing around, and God knows what you have on every single app, just one click away. You need to understand what you're trying to do when you're learning a language, and that is trying to understand a giant source of information, and then you're also trying to regurgitate that. You are trying to communicate. That is going to be, generally speaking, your highest motivation: understanding and communication. That's what language is for. Now, to give you a small comparison, one of the apps that I bash all the time on this channel is Duolingo. The goal there is to keep you on this, earn hearts, earn streaks, so much so that they will allow you to pay in order for you to continue to keep your streak, even if you missed it. If that doesn't tell you what they think is the motivating factor, guys, it's just dopamine. They understand that all I've got to do is keep you here. Your original goal was to speak and understand another language. Now your goal is to not lose the streak. Well, they've tricked you. It's beautiful psychology. I mean, I'm not mad at them. It's amazing. Because what they did is they took your original goal and they tied it into dopamine, and they never told you when you would ever be able to do it, by the way, because you won't ever be able to do it. The goal is not for you to eventually be able to speak and go off. What app in the world would want that, right? Going back to how we want to structure this, we need to know that we have some tools available to us that humans have been using for a very long time. And the reason that they work perfectly is because they force you to have concrete thoughts. All right, so where am I going with this? When you're reading something, it's not jargon and jumble. If you can understand what you're reading and what you're watching, it's not random to you. You can make sense out of it. And that's what you want at the very beginning. You want to make sure that you find any sort of material that is of your level. All right, and we're going to sit down and we're going to make sure that we do this for 30 minutes at a minimum. Okay, 30 minutes at a minimum for a video, podcast, whatever. Now, the best thing that you can do is make sure that video episode, whether it's Peppa Pig as a small thing, which I know a lot of people use and we use, obviously, for people that are in a more advanced stage, or depending on the language that you're learning, there are some slow French, slow Spanish, slow Danish, all this stuff they have, slow textual conversations available to you. And these are the things that you want to start with. Because if we're going to look at how children learn a language, there are still similarities, regardless of the fact that your brain is now changed. Okay? Because you will not be able to outspeak a 5-year-old in another language just because you're an adult. You don't have the vocab, the context, you haven't tried to communicate. Imagine if you can put yourself in the same place you were, or if you can imagine speaking to a child. Their only desire is to communicate and understand. That's it. That is the main reason, not just the neuroplasticity of the brain, their youth and their openness and all of these things, absolutely 100% valid. But you, as an adult, don't seem to have the same level of drive to communicate, which is why people then go on and make another assumption that immersion works best. Well, immersion works best if you are left with absolutely no option other than to speak this language or die, speak this language or go without food, speak this language or get out of the situation, right? So immersion works, but if you keep your comfort in immersion, switching to English, being able to think English at home, being able to watch things in your mother tongue or English, whatever, at home, no, you're not engaged in the same thing. Imagine you're a kid and you want food. If you can put yourself in that same mentality, then you can try to understand what it would be like to make that switch in your head. Now, you don't need to be so extreme and go someplace and put yourself in danger, clearly, but you can understand how you're going to have to change that because you have to change the operating system of your brain. There's no other way around this. So in those first 30 minutes, we want to absorb as much input as possible. Make sure that if you're watching this input that you understand generally 80-90% of what you're watching. If you're reading, you want to understand at least 98% or nearly all of it. 95%, doesn't really matter what information that you say out there. You have to understand this. If you're reading, you are wasting your time. All right. And reading is a very good tool in order to pick up a whole ton of vocab because you're going to be able to see these words over and over and over again. All right. So I can give you a list, and then that's exactly what we do in our word and verb pack. Is obviously you have a list of 100 words, and instead of you just memorizing them, we've got the story, and you're going to hit those words with different context a number of times. And it is very, very easy for you after the 10th, 15th time to have seen, I have seen that word 50 different times, 6 different characters have said it, right? Now you know it, you recognize it. And then comes starting to be able to manipulate that word and change it around and get in the past tense, etc. That all comes after, all right? But there is a natural progression to the way that you should be learning. And you can do that without an app entirely. So focus on getting that input in those 30 minutes, all right? After that, change the type of input that you're doing. If you were watching a video for 30 minutes or watching a small 10-minute video 3 times over and over again, switch that up, read. The one thing that you need to try and do is read within the same subject matter that you were just watching something on. If I watched a whole video about the rules of football, soccer, whatever, then I go immediately and I try and read something different, very similar. Don't just take a transcript and reread that. The reason is the same reason that I told you before. I want you to hit different context. You have to let your brain make its own connections all by itself. All right, don't force this on your brain. And by seeing it in different contextual places, the brain is going to pick up the patterns. It's a supercomputer. It will do it all by itself. You will watch it happen. I'm not saying that later on you won't deal with grammar. You can start to deal with grammar much, much, much later, as long as you start to pick up the patterns here. When you go to do grammar, 3 months, whatever, 6 weeks, whenever, when you go to try and do this, your brain will already understand the pattern and will be able to know that's a rule. I get it now. I get it. And it will stick further. Nothing could be more than the truth. And I don't know, and I know this video will get like 0 views, like 2 people will see this, but I really don't care because the people who do see this, I'm going to make your life so much easier. You have no idea the amount of time you will not waste now when you understand and this part clicks, okay? So take that to heart. Once you understand that you're doing that, and then you switch it up your content and boom, you're reading. Now it really comes the great hard last part, which is every single day you are going to have to try to convey all of that to someone, write it down, whatever it is, you're gonna have to try to convey. And the reason that we want you to go back and go every 3 days, essentially, using basically the same material is because if you just do this, we said, what, football one day, if you go the next day and you start talking about rockets and then the next day you start talking about this, when are you going to see this word again? All right. And I'm not going to go down the spaced repetition idea here, but what you want to do is stick with this for at least 3 days. All right. Stick with that for 3 days, do the same thing for 3 days. And you are not seeing any app trying to get you to do this. No one wants to tell you to do this because it's boring to some degree, but it's not, because you have a ton of different words, you have a ton of different contexts. I've told you a ton of different stories, different videos. They just all need to be centered around. You can jumble them up. It gets jumbled up, all right? And if you want to take these lists, take these words, go into any form of AI that we have right now, regenerate these stories and just put them in different past tenses, put them in different scenarios and all this stuff. And once you have done that, you are golden. You're good. Now, you're going to have to worry about your output a whole lot, and this video is longer than I intended it to be, but it's just a point that has to be stated, that if you want to be able to speak a language, you're going to have to actually talk at some point. And you can practice this at the beginning before you're even ready to, all by yourself, and you can also do this in your head. There isn't a single polyglot alive that hasn't had a conversation with themselves in their target language before they were ready to actually have them. Now, it's going to be whittled down and completely compressed by your vocab level, because if you don't know a lot of vocab, you can't talk about a whole lot of things, but you can do that. And you can start to instead count in your target language when you're counting something out. You can write down your grocery list in that language because you're going to see those words over and over again. You know that you can start to shift some things in your target language. All right. And so if any of this is making sense to you and you want to delve deeper into it, obviously we have tons of programs which you can go check out right down below in the link. And of course, if you're crazy and you want to do this in an intense way with Artificial Immersion Intense, go check that out. It's a 45-day learning course. You have a tutor, you have all customized, everything is customized to you and what it is your goals are over the course of these 15, 30, and 45 days. We provide nearly all of the materials that you need in order to do that. And you live in this bubble that is going to change your operating system and your mentality on language learning. All right. So enjoy the journey. See you guys soon. Peace out.